Welcome. This is AI 101, part of AI Salon, for Sunday, January 21st. Welcome, everybody. I've done a couple different kinds of sessions. One of the sessions, one of the things we do is kind of just open. Sometimes I also present on a particular topic, but this one is kind of going to be freeform, except that we're going to cover 5 or 10 minutes at least of Obsidian. Because that came up big kind of yesterday in Anne Murphy's GPT group. So let me do some more housekeeping kind of stuff. And what I'm going to do is share my screen. And then I like to take notes during meetings sometimes, and you can share along with me. So this is a web thing called HackMD, and I will share this link with you, and then you can either come here to look or you can edit. And let me show you before I even do that. This is something that uses Markdown. I'm going to type Markdown here too. And it's got 2 different views. You can see either the edit view or just the view, or both of them at the same time. So it'll be more obvious why that's important later. And I will share a link with you, but if you come here and it looks like you have to sign in, you can kind of ignore that pop-up. You don't have to sign in or anything. So I'll grab this link and drop it in the chat. And again, this is kind of optional in the background. Feel free to type stuff here as I'm talking, if, notes or questions or anything like that. So I thought I'd start off with kind of talking through some of the things that we might talk about today, and also ask everybody here what else we might want to get into in our time. I'm gonna write another one down here, which is upcoming.
I got it.
Yeah, one-on-one sessions. So let me ask, besides what I've got up here already, are there particular things that we want to talk about for AI 101 today?
Not me, that looks good.
Awesome. I'm going to kind of jump right into Obsidian. So I'm going to make a new section here called Obsidian. And you'll notice I'm using a little bit of special characters, the dashes and the hash marks here. When I make 1 hash mark, it's a bigger thing, and when I make it 2, it's a little bit smaller, and when I make it 3, it gets even smaller, and so on. I think you can go up to 5 there. I only usually use 1 or 2, maybe 3. And I always use just 1 at the top, and I don't use 1 again. The reason I'm going through this is we're learning a little bit of Markdown here, it's called. The idea of Markdown is just, so I'll make another section here called Markdown. A simple text-based formatting format. A few punctuation characters. I don't know, that's kind of, so one of the things, so we've already seen headers and bullets. There's only like a couple more things that are really important to think about. One of them is italic. You can do, if you want something italic, you just put 1 underscore on either side of a word or a phrase, or bold. another thing you can kind of see is if I'm just typing regular text, uh, you can just type like you're just typing stuff, and you're already doing markdown. You don't have to do these special characters. So, let me come back to the Obsidian section here. I guess I'll keep this that 3 header. You get it from. And let's go there real quick. So Obsidian is free for personal use, and it's not very expensive for commercial use. I've got a commercial license because it is totally worth it. And then the other thing to know kind of is the community. This forum here is really kind of helpful.
Question.
One of the cool things. Yeah.
And the application that you're using right now, what is the name of this?
Good point.
Am I gonna be able to use it or only for this meeting?
Yeah. So let me type another thing. We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. I'm apologize. I told us we would be talking about Obsidian, and we haven't got to Obsidian yet, but we're getting there. So markdown tools include Obsidian, HackMD, which is this tool that we're using right now on the web. Another one I really like is Typora. It's a little bit of money, but it's I think it's really worth it. And then there's a pattern of this pattern I'm going to talk about, Obsidian+Git. MD is Markdown. Interestingly enough. So when you save a Markdown file, you can either call it .txt, or if you call it .md, then it'll work out better, kind of. So MD is the common abbreviation for Markdown. And we'll come back to Massive Wiki maybe. It's actually kind of interesting, but let's talk about it later.
And I use Obsidian in my phone and also my laptop, right?
HackMD, yeah, Obsidian and HackMD both work on phones or your laptop.
I downloaded. And how much is the cost?
Excuse me?
How much cost the? Is 50 for the year or 50 each month?
You know, the first thing to do is not to worry about it.
Okay, very good.
I mean, the Obsidian folks have kind of gifted the world this amazing tool, and they're not too chintzy about it. So definitely just start using it, and don't worry about it too much. But then, you know, if you're really using it, especially if you're using it for business, it's nice to. So per user per year.
Okay.
And I don't expect that you'll go, yeah, definitely, Pete, we'll have to do that. But once you start using Obsidian for a while, I think, and maybe you won't like it. So anyway, let's look at Obsidian. And thanks for your I'm going to allow Vicky's Fathom. Thanks for your patience in kind of getting there. So here's Obsidian. And this is one of my knowledge bases. This is about GPTs and jailbreaking, but I don't want that one. So let me open up another window on a different one. And I will go here. So you can see this is an Obsidian window. This is an Obsidian window. And each collection of documents is called a vault for Obsidian. So the way to think of Obsidian is that it's kind of a glorified text editor. So in the middle here is the editor, and on the left is a list of files, and on the right is some special panels. You can open and close these with these buttons here in the upper left. Here. So right away, that's kind of, Obsidian is got a lot of stuff, and you don't need to use a lot of it. But we went through a bunch of it right there, just that there's a text box and these panes that you can open and close. And this pane is a list of files. So let me, I think it's really common for most, so most people use Obsidian as a personal note-taking tool. It's sometimes called a personal knowledge manager or a personal knowledge garden, something like that. It is like OneNote, and let's, if I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to type another header here, similar tools. OneNote, Notion, Evernote a little bit, kind of, a bunch of other ones. It's kind of the same thing. So the reason we're talking about Obsidian, and the reason I like it better than these other tools the reason we're talking about Obsidian, and especially Obsidian instead of one of these tools maybe, is I'm also going to write here Google Docs. And sometimes even Google Sheets or Excel. Corey was doing a cool thing yesterday where she was keeping her GPT prompts in a Google Sheet, and that's great too. If that works, it's great. So let me start another vault here real quick. And it's really common for people to have just one vault. I have a ton of them, and that's okay too. So I'm going to call this one after the day, actually. So I've got to pick a place on my computer to put it. And then I've got a brand new thing. So that I won't confuse things, I'm going to close this other one, but I can get it back if I need to. So here's what it looks like when you just start off with no files. And right away, let me make another file. GPT. Well, actually,
so when we are creating a GPT, we can add all the commands where we are adding in the GPT in here, right? To have everything order.
Yeah, and let's play around with that a little bit. I've got a GPT that builds Midjourney 5 prompts as it happens. So let's look at this GPT, and you'll notice if I click the configure tab there, I've got the name and a description. This one doesn't have a description because this was just for me, and instructions and the conversation starters. So if I wanted to keep track of this, so you'll see that I've got two documents here now, one called welcome and one called my first document. I'm going to make another one called shopping list. I'm going to name it up here. And kind of want to show you that it's just, it's just kind of a text file that you're looking at. I will close this one down over here for now. Another thing to notice, you can optionally have tabs here. So the way that I created these documents, it created a new tab for each one. I can close these tabs and I can open them, things like that. Sometimes you're in one tab or I can say open in a new tab. Okay, so now imagine I wanted to keep track of the custom instructions here. So what I would do probably is copy the name of this. Maybe I would make a folder actually called My GPTs. And then inside that folder, I would say make a new note, and then I would call this. It turns out that the name of these files is actually the text, or sorry, the file name on my computer. So it doesn't like this colon here. So I'm going to just replace it like that, and then it'll be happy. So now what I'll do, so remember we're used to making headers. I'm going to do a funny thing here and duplicate this. And we'll come back to why that's important maybe someday. But you'll notice if I arrow away from that, the markdown goes away. But if I arrow to it, the markdown pops up. So this is where I said, just like on HackMD, I like to start the very top with one header and the name of the title. Somehow I did OCR someplace, and I've been having this thing where the AI turns to AL. It's super funny. Anyway, so I've got my one header, and now I'm going to make a two header for, sorry, I got myself lost. I'm going to make a two header for name, and a two header for
Description.
and a two header for instructions, and a two header for conversation starters. So that one I didn't type the header first, which is fine. I can just go back and add it. Okay, so now I can kind of make some space under that and copy this. And I don't have a description yet, so I'll just put that for now. And instructions, copy paste this whole thing.
Wow.
And then I'm going to do each of these, but I'm going to do each of them as a bullet. It's a pretty boring conversation starters, but again, this was kind of a private one. I'll spruce this up and release it as a public one at some point. So kind of an interesting thing that happened here. I had originally written this prompt in Markdown. So this is a two header, but it's inside my instructions. So let me go to a little bit of an advanced thing. Instead of, I want to say that the whole thing of instructions here is kind of special text, and if it happens to be Markdown, ignore the fact that it's Markdown. So the way that we do that is with 3 backticks. And Obsidian did a cool thing there and kind of completed the 3 backticks.
What do you do that? What is the reason?
I noticed that there's Markdown inside this template, or sorry, inside the custom instructions, and so I wanted to not have it show up as Markdown.
Okay. Okay,
I just did something kind of fancy there. A different way to do this, I'm going to duplicate this, make a copy, and it changed the file name. here, added a 1 to it. So I'm going to say a different way. A different way to do this. I'm going to do another fancy thing. I apologize, but we'll go fast over this and maybe ask some questions. Another thing that you can do, if I go back to Markdown tools, it turns out that all of these tools work really well together. Once you're using Markdown, all the Markdown is the same everywhere. So you can use different tools that are a little bit better for different purposes. It turns out that I like to use Typora sometimes to edit files out of Obsidian. And it's really easy to do that once I've got Typora on my computer. I've paid for it and stuff. I'm going to say open in default app. And you'll see this is the same thing. I'll do another thing. Let me show you what this looks like on my computer. If I say reveal in Finder, Finder is a little bit like File Explorer for Windows. This is just files on my computer. There's nothing super special about these files. So a lot of apps like Evernote or something, or Notion, you don't get the raw files anywhere because they've got them in a fancy database and they can do fancier stuff for some ways, there's some things in that like that. But Obsidian uses just straight text files on my computer. So I can open this with Typora. I could also open it with TextEdit, which is the Mac version of Notepad. And you'll see it's the same thing here.
One more time, what is Typora?
Typora is it's a specialized Markdown editor.
Okay.
And I like it. Well, it's kind of funny. The reason I like it, or the reason I popped it up here and got us all confused about where we're going. It has an easier way of switching back and forth from Markdown to not Markdown. So this is this file called Imagine a Scene 2 a different way. And I'll copy this down to the header. So the previous way we did this, I had, two header, two header, two header, two header. Instead of that, I'm going to just replace those with lines. So the way you say a line, a horizontal line in Markdown is with 3 dashes. I swear this isn't hard after you play with it a little bit, and I apologize for going through so many crazy things even as we're starting off. So what I'm doing here is I'm replacing every 2 header with a line thing, and I'm taking out these back. So now I'm using a special key, command / to go back and forth between regular Markdown and rendered Markdown. When I save it in Typora, Obsidian automatically knows it got changed, and so it changed over here too. So the reason I did this was because I wanted to say you could keep track of it a couple different ways, either with the 2 headers or with lines or something like that. Let me pause for a sec, and I'm going to stop the share so I can see faces. How are we feeling about this? I went super fast, and I apologize, but I'm super excited about Obsidian, I guess. Have I totally scared you away from using Obsidian? Or are you like, okay, well, this looks complicated, but I want to know some more? How are we feeling?
I already downloaded.
I think it's really interesting. I'm curious about the application in the AI space and how, where the two worlds are converging.
Um,
Oh, you should point out you
great.
can actually use AI in Obsidian too.
Yes. There's an AI chat GPT plugin for Obsidian,
Lista.
so you can actually
What's the
generate
time?
stuff straight into it. Excuse me.
Mistusia.
Sorry, I
Kay
can't quite.
needs to go on mute.
We're good. Um, uh, so if we're not freaked out yet, Brandon, let me kind of dig into your question. It's a good
Yeah.
question. How does this apply to AI? There's a couple ways. The way that came up for some of the people here, yesterday we were talking about GPTs. Anne Murphy runs a great GPT get-togethers on Saturday, and one of the things that came up, so I'll go back to sharing my screen, is that it's great that you can add all this information into a GPT, and some of the folks there, like Corey, gets up to the limit on this. There's an 8,000 character limit on this, and she regularly bumps into that. So, you know, when you're changing a lot of stuff around, you kind of want to, if you make some changes, you kind of want to copy and paste this someplace else on your computer so you have it saved. And that's kind of what I was showing here. I'm going to delete this a different way one for right now.
Question.
Yes.
Can you share this document to anybody, publish it in any way? The document you're now?
There are different ways you can, yes. And we'll get in, well, I won't get into that right now. I mean, we might get into it a little bit later. I'm going to go in. So this Obsidian, I didn't change any of the settings. There's a setting that I like to change, and it deals with this double title thing. So before I do anything else, I'm going to go in and change that. It's in appearance. Oh, this, by the way, this is the settings screen. And there's a thing called show inline title that I want to turn off here. And while I'm here, I'm going to click editor and also turn off readable line length. You might imagine I've got a note somewhere in one of my Obsidian vaults, which is the settings that I like for different things. So I happen to remember those. So what I did, got rid of that double title thing. I won't go into too much why it's a double title thing, but it makes sense that different people want to use it different ways, and I like it one way, and other people like it the other way. So I have to go in and just change the setting. What I did, or the reason I do this, is for better compatibility with some of the other Markdown tools. So so imagine I've got a GPT. I'm trying to keep track of the versions of it. This is a great way to do it. And so what I did is I kind of backed up everything. I copy and pasted it over to here. So I could very easily now make a copy of this, rename this to be Imagine a Scene 3. And then I might actually type instead of typing instructions, say I wanted to make a new GPT. And I'm doing a funny thing. I'm actually juggling two ChatGPT accounts right now. So this happens to be on one account. I'm going to go to my other account here. And say I wanted to create a whole new one, maybe even in a separate ChatGPT account, maybe not. So
quick question, why do you have two accounts?
It's an interesting story. Thanks for the question, Nira. Now I have to answer it real quick. Somebody shared an interesting. By the way, I think you're new to AI Salon, so maybe we can go there real quick too. This is AI Salon. There's lots of cool things. These are the guilds, AI 101 and art and writing and business and things like that. There's a cool place called Show and Tell, where people just post things they make to show off to other people, which I think is really cool. I feel like it was Suzanne. I think it was Suzanne. Suzanne posted got frustrated by a GPT, rightfully so. She was just trying to use it, and it got all nasty with her because she was trying to, it makes cute pictures of your pet, and it came back with it's got pretty strong anti-jailbreak instructions. So I'm like, pretty strong anti-jailbreak instructions. So I got to try that. So I spent a fair bit of time last night trying to jailbreak it, and got a little ways, but not very far. So I'm really impressed with the anti-jailbreak. So it was.
Did you have to jailbreak with the alternate accounts so that when they get rid of you, you'll still have an account?
I worry about that a little bit because, oh my God, I would hate it if, I couldn't use GPT-4. So what happened was this was late last night. I stayed up doing extra homework and stuff like that. And so late last night, I got to the thing where it says, ChatGPT, whatever, quota exceeded, stop using it for a couple hours. So I'm like, okay, well, thanks. I needed to go to bed anyway. So I got up this morning and I tried a couple more. And very quickly, I got the quota exceeded after, I don't know, 10 conversations or something. So my hypothesis is if they think that you're trying to jailbreak something and you're doing it a lot, so even if you don't do it very much, they kick you out. So it was about 2 hours ago. 2 hours ago, I'm like, I got that thing and it said, you can start again at 9:27 after the end of this call. So I said, well, that's gonna suck. I won't be able to demo GPT-4 stuff or GPTs if I don't. So I set up a quick account that's got a fresh limit.
That makes sense.
I've gotten,
I don't think it's only with jailbreaks. I do a lot. I use it a lot to read PDFs for me and help me summarize the information. And sometimes it gets angry at me and it stops working if I put another PDF in, and I'm just like, okay, then I go to Claude because Claude will always read my PDFs for me. But yes, but it gets angry.
I wonder if the PDFs take extra tokens or something.
Maybe.
So anyway, so we've got a new account. This could be the same account with just a new GPT, but I wanted to take Imagine a Scene 2 and make it better or worse or something like that. I want to make it different, right? So I made a backup of it or a copy of it, and I changed the name to 3. So in here, I'll change the name to 3, and I'll start copying this into a brand new empty GPT. I'll actually copy this for now, just so that we can see it doesn't exist. So here's the instruction that I was using for the other one. And let's see, I'll copy the conversation starters over too, even though they're boring. They're kind of boring, not too boring.
Why sometimes the GPT have only 2 or 3 conversations, or why only have a 4? And
I actually don't know no, you can't change the 4 limit. You can put as many as you want, but it's only going to display the first 4. And I think it's because they don't want to overwhelm users. It makes sense. It's a good UX thing, I think. So now if I change a little thing in here,
I will let to make bigger the
It
logo.
might also be for privacy too, because if you're going to try to demo something, you don't want the whole world to see your whole, conversation list. So you can sort of, limit what people can see maybe. So that's probably why they limit the number of combos they show.
Good guess, RJ. So you'll see that I changed number 3 here. And I actually cheated and went over to ChatGPT to ask it to reword it for me, just so I would have something different. So now this one is different. Real quickly, I'm going to get confused about which one is which. So if I've got a practice of, instead of editing here even, I think I would edit here instead. So now I've got my version 3 here. I've got my version 2 here. And let me do this again. I'll delete everything over here in this 3 and copy it and paste it and try it out. I don't know if that prompt is going to work, but we'll see. So back to your question, Brandon, why would you go through the trouble of using Obsidian? Really quickly, people will they'll have 10 or 20 GPTs, and they'll have like 10 different versions of each GPT. And it's really easy when you're, this is not a particularly fancy thing here. If I make a copy paste error or something, I'm typing, all of a sudden it's easy to have totally messed this up. So if I've got a copy someplace else on my computer, I've got a better chance of being able to recover this. I could say, oh my gosh, I just screwed this up. Let me just copy from my backup.
That makes sense. I also have an answer for the conversation starters question. From my experience, if you have more than 4, it will randomize them each time a new chat session is brought up. So you can have like 10 different ones. And then each time, each user that gets in there is going to see a different 4 highlighted randomly to encourage different conversations. So it's not always the same experience.
Sweet. Thank you. That's great information. Okay, so let's pause here again. And I'm going to stop the screen share again, and we're all okay still, right? I think. I'm going to like step up a level in complexity, kind of. And I'm going to start using Git. So Git is this amazing tool that software developers use literally like all day, every day. And all it does is keep tracks of versions of things. So if you think about software development, it's not uncommon for a software developer to have probably literally thousands of text files. And they're working with a team of 2 people, 5 people, 10 people, 50 people. And they're making changes, and it's part of their job to make these tiny little changes that all kind of look alike. They're making tiny little changes all day long in these files, maybe sometimes big ones. They delete whole chunks. Maybe they deleted the wrong chunk. Maybe they deleted too much of the chunk or not enough or something like that. So it's very important to keep track of each change that they're making. So the same guy who started Linux, actually, Linus Torvalds, started a thing called Git. And it's not that he invented the concept. There's been many version control systems, they call them, going back decades. But Git is the one that came out to be the best and most powerful and most commonly used and all that kind of stuff. So that's all like the good news stuff. The bad news is that because it's a bunch of software developers and because Linus started it and then had a bunch of help fixing it and making it better, And because software developers have a high tolerance for complexity, Git is amazingly complex and amazingly difficult to use, and like confusing, and the way you use it is just crazy and all that kind of stuff. So it turns out it's so complex that most software developers don't even know how to use it very well. So what they do is they learn the 10 things that they have to do with it, and you know, and then they just keep going. They use those 10 things, and every once in a while they get backed into a corner, and it's like they have to do something that they know can be done, but is not in the 10 things that they know by heart. So there's two things that you do. One of them is you type into Google and you say, you know, git revert last commit, you know, or something like that. And usually it will pop up the Stack Overflow website where software developers all help each other make sense of Git, right? And some Git genius will say, this is how you do it. And somebody else will say, well, there's another way to do it, and there's another way to do it. And then after a while, kind of the best answer floats to the top, and you just copy and paste it without understanding it too much. Maybe if you've done it a couple times like that, you'll copy the secret answer and you'll paste it into your Obsidian. Actually, I do that all the time. So that's one way to get out of a fix. The other way, it's super funny, but there's a comic, a geek comic about this, and it's true. The other way is Git helps you back things up to the cloud all the time. Every time you make a change, you can back it up to the cloud if you want. So you've got it backed up to the cloud. You've screwed up all the files on your computer. Maybe you're like an hour or two into screwing it up, and you're trying to unscrew it up, and everything is just like, oh my God, this is so horrible. And I know it's doable in Git, but you know, it wasn't my 10 things, and it wasn't Stack Overflow right away. So what I'm going to do is delete everything on my computer, delete that whole thing on my computer, and just copy it back down from the cloud. So software developers do that a lot more than you would think. It's almost accepted practice to do that. So now we've gone through the scary part, you know, the good part of Git, the scary part of Git. Let's come back down to the ground kind of, and with Obsidian, there's a plugin that helps Obsidian talk Git, actually Git protocol. And it's pretty easy to use. It's kind of where we come back to the ground, and why I can be talking with a straight face to people who are non-technical. Even maybe you all are technical, maybe you're not. But I've been doing this with non-technical people for a couple of years, and almost all the time they're good with one or two buttons in the Git plugin, and that's just good enough. Brandon?
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is a really good timing for me to have this conversation. I've been exploring GitHub or Git for the past 6 months or so, part personally, part professionally, and I second that it is very intimidating when you first get in there, because it just feels like this. It's like if you were on Kyle's live last night, it's the speedboat and I'm in the rowboat. it's it's all going in and everybody's moving 100 miles an hour with all this terminology that you're pushing and pulling and doing all these things that are like, I'm so far out of my depths here. It is reassuring to know that most of the people who are using it are only using those 10 things and don't really it's kind of like a black box where you just kind of know your things to put into it and the rest just kind of does it. So it's like, I don't know how when I turn the key on my car, I know that starts the car. I don't know what the internal combustion engine does and the circuitry does to make the car drive. I just know that I turn that key and magic happens at speed. And so I've started to take that approach with GitHub. Is like, okay, because I'm a technical person and I like to understand how things work. Git is one of those things that I'm like, I just kind of have to throw my hands up and accept that, okay, it works. I don't know really why or how it works, but it serves a purpose for helping me collaborate with my colleagues on files in a way that is safe. So I know that I can safely work on things, and then if I screw something up, there's another version of it out there somewhere that we can revert back to that somebody else did. So it's not, I'm not breaking things. And so it's a really cool tool if you're into the software developer space and ever need to collaborate with other people. I'm intrigued by this Obsidian plugin.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. And that's a great example, actually. I've never thought of it before, but talking about a car, I think it's so famous. Git is so famous for being difficult to use, even if you're a software developer and have a lot of technical expertise. It's so famous that if you're not a technical person and you mention to a friend, hey, there's this guy Pete that says Git is really fun and easy to use, your technical person is going to go, I don't know, I think he's steering you wrong. Please don't do that. It's going to be a nightmare. So so if somebody says that, maybe believe them, maybe don't. I don't know. I have successfully been teaching people how to use Git without really knowing much about Git, especially just with Obsidian and the Git plugin, and it's working out. So like a car, you can kind of just pretend that the engine is in there and you know that it's in there, and you can kind of like turn the key or push the button, and 99 out of 90 with a car, hopefully it's 999 out of 1,000, but almost always the car just works. And every once in a while, you take you have the understanding that, every once in a while the car is going to stop working and there's going to be magic stuff that has to happen under the hood. And I'll call a mechanic or a friend or something like that or whatever. And, they'll, I'll look away, they'll do some quick things and then it's just going to work again. So Git is a lot like that. You can simplify it down to that 10 things. You can simplify it down to like 4 things, and you can kind of simplify the 4 things down to like 1 thing. And almost always it's going to work. Every once in a while it will, do something weird. And the way that we're fixing it right now is everybody I'm teaching, I say, call me up or call up Bill, and we'll get you sorted out. And it takes like 5 minutes of like, doing the thing like under the engine hood, and it's back to working again. So let me take a little detour. Where we're going here is starting to use Git, but let me take a little detour and tell you about a project I've got, which is why I'm doing Git and non-technical people anyway. It's called Massive Wiki. I've been developing wiki software for almost 20 years. And even commercial wiki software. I had a company that built a pretty good wiki software for businesses. I ended up being frustrated with all the software and stuff, and I came with this idea of I call it Massive Wiki, and the idea is to use the same thing that we're talking about, something like Obsidian. I didn't have Obsidian when I started, but something like Obsidian and Git, and then you kind of have a wiki, especially a thing Brandon hinted at, and we can go into a little bit more. Not only can you keep track of your versions, but Git is so good at keeping track of your versions that if you ask it to do my versions and her versions, it can keep track of your versions together, and you can sync them to the cloud. And so most of the time, not all the time, most of the time you can make changes and she can make changes, and then you can just like sync up with the changes, and Git magically makes it all work. And this is what software developers take advantage of all the time, because they're working. Software projects get too big for one person. So kind of the trick there is to not be editing in exactly the same place in a file. So she'll be working on this subroutine, I'll be working on that subroutine, or maybe we'll even be working in separate files. So as long as we're not in the same place, Git will just like stitch everything together. If we happen to change the same lines, Git will detect that both people have made changes in a place where it can't tell who was supposed to have the right stuff, and it'll give it back to you and say, I'm confused, you guys figure it out. So even then, Brendan talked about safety. The thing with Git is you always feel really safe because it's got your versions. Even when you get a conflict, it's called, when you get a conflict like that, you know that the information is safe and you have to like take some time to untangle it, but still Git has got your back. So, so let me show you a little bit of Massive Wiki real quick. And for, I think probably most people kind of have an idea of what a wiki is. A wiki is like this, right? And conceptually, this is something that's been edited. This page out of many pages on this wiki has been edited by a lot of people over a lot of time to make it better or worse or whatever. So these are the people here that have been making edits, including some bots. So that's kind of a wiki. A different kind of wiki is Massive Wiki. And the thing that's different about Massive Wiki is it doesn't have an edit button on this page. So the way you use this is you go into Obsidian or another thing. You don't have to use Obsidian, as it turns out. And here's my file, or sorry, my page on that wiki, it's called. So we have a number of people who keep track of stuff through that, on that wiki. And you know, sometimes I write blog posts there. Sometimes we take meeting notes. This actually started out in HackMD. You can see a little bit of the same format. So then to make this kind of round trip, because usually a wiki you can see on the web and you can edit it, I made a piece of software called Massive Wiki Builder. And the reason I'm telling you about Massive Wiki is mostly so that I can show you this diagram. This is a Massive Wiki diagram, but it works for the same thing that we're talking about too. And looks like there's lots of lines and boxes on this diagram. It's not too complicated. Each of these is a different person. And one vault is the blue thing here. So human 3 has different vaults. Human 1 has vault 1 and vault 2. Human 3 has folder X and folder Y. This human 2 has A and B, but they all have this shared vault. And they use GitHub in the middle of it. Right here is GitHub. And then there's a thing called Massive Wiki Builder, which will, conceptually, it's kind of a participant in the version sharing. But instead of writing on the wiki, it takes the wiki and converts it into a website, which gets shared on the web. So this website here is an example of a Massive Wiki that's been turned into a website by Massive Wiki Builder. And so is this. So I've got a few dozen of these with other people that we do editing in an Obsidian or something like it. And then we also have a version that gets published to the web. So the reason I wanted to come here again, I guess, not only can you do this with different people, you could be just one of you, and you can upload and download your files just yourself to the cloud. So this turns out to be a great way to do a backup. And I do that on almost all of my Obsidian vaults. So let me find the, this is the vault that we started, right? And so one of the things that's kind of tricky here is I can tell I've got two different versions of this, which is great. It's a little bit hard to tell what the differences are between these. So another way to do this, let me install the Obsidian Git plugin. Yeah, let me think for a sec. I'm going to restart this thing. We'll start this over a kind of a new way because I want to start from GitHub. So GitHub for right now, we can kind of just think of it as the cloud version of the vault. It's a place, yeah, we don't have to get into too much more of it. Kind of like Brandon said, GitHub itself, GitHub and Git are separate things. So GitHub is a sharing place for anybody who's using Git. And they have free accounts and paid accounts. For everything you want to do, you can use a free account until you get more advanced. But so what I'll do is I know how to do this. I know how to navigate the GitHub interface. It's a little complicated. You don't have to use GitHub very much, just enough, just to get it started kind of, and then you can forget that it's even there. So I'm going to go to here, plus, and I'm going to say new repository. And I wonder what we called this other one. I'm going to call it something similar, but a little bit different. So I called it AI 101, this thing here. That's great. So I'm going to call this GitHub.
I hear a lot of banging in the background. Could somebody go on mute?
It might be me. The dog just woke up.
Sorry.
Getting outside. Sorry, RJ. It'll quiet down soon. So as I'm making this new repository, I can make it public so everybody can see it, which is what open source people do, or I can make it private. So it's, just me. I will make it private and I will just not worry about the rest of this for now. And then I'm going to go to a special place. Actually, I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to skip over a little bit of I'm going to skip over a thing here. There's a couple different ways to do it, and it's the next lesson we'll talk about the different ways to do it. But usually you can use this. You can use a button push for this. I'm going to use this command line thing. So now, instead of create a new vault, I'm going to say open folders vault. What I did is it's called cloning. I synced the empty vault I've got in GitHub down to my computer, and it doesn't have any files in it, which is fine. I'm going to do a little bit of an advanced thing here. I'm going to, because I know these are just files on my computer and I know how to work with files, even though I'm starting a new vault, it's funny, let me do, this is the old vault and this is the new vault. And boy, wouldn't it be cool if I could start with some of these from the old vault. I don't need the shopping list. I don't mean my first document, but my GPTs would be really nice to have over here. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, I just made a mistake. I moved them instead of copying them. So let me put them back and then copy that instead. So so this is Finder, like Windows Explorer. Everything that you do with files on Finder Explorer, maybe you're not great with it either, but you can do the same things with your vault because it's just files. So So it's really convenient to be able to like clone a part of a, copy another part of another wiki. I can also do things like if I've got document files, if I had .text files or .pdf files, I can put them in my my vault just like this. So now we'll see that this new vault has a folder called My GPTs, private 2 and private 3. That's great. We'll see that this double header came back. So I'm going to go to the settings. Every vault has its own settings, which is sometimes good and sometimes infuriating. Okay, so we're kind of back where we were. And now we've got the Obsidian+Git plugin. And I'm going to show that a weird way. I'm going to go into the command palette, it's called. This is Command P or Alt P, I think, on option, something like that, Alt P. I'm going to type a word that I happen to know is in the thing I want. What I'm really looking for is toggle live preview source mode, but the way I get to that is by typing source. Should I check the chat, or we're doing okay still?
You might want to check the chat.
Okay, let me check the chat.
I would say, speaking from personal experience, that a lot of the stuff is like drinking from a fire hose.
Yep.
And it's very easy to get overwhelmed very quickly. But that's why we're all here, right? Like I think Ivan said 5 weeks ago he didn't even know what AI was, and now he's made 15 custom GPTs. So like once you start going down the rabbit hole, it's pretty easy to get sucked in.
It feels deep fast.
Yeah.
One of the observations I have, and thanks for everybody's time and patience and kind of following along. And hopefully, if it's still interesting, you can go back and watch the video and slow down some of these parts. There's kind of a weird conundrum, which is to show you the interesting stuff, I have to do some things that look a little bit complicated. They actually don't feel complicated to me at all. But I know that they're complicated to somebody who doesn't know anything about what's going on. Like Pete, you keep going to this, to this, to this, to this. I know, I'm sorry. A thing that I can say here is, I'll get to you just a second, Maria. A thing I can say here is that to get started with this, maybe it's a lot like an AI thing, right? It gets complicated fast, and when you watch somebody who's good at it or knows a lot about it, maybe not good at it, who knows a lot about it, it gets really confusing. But if you find a simple how-to, following the simple how-to, there's like 5 steps or something like that, and none of them make sense, but you just do them and you get the thing. Obsidian is especially like that, and Obsidian and the Git plugin are pretty much like that. So it's easy to follow a how-to. Over in Massive Wikiland, we actually have some how-tos, and I didn't look them up yet because it hasn't been long enough time. I just started thinking about presenting Obsidian yesterday. Some of them are pretty good. So the one gotcha that we need to bump people over still is it's getting Obsidian+Git to log into GitHub, and you kind of see I like skimmed over that really fast and did it a little bit of a strange way. So that's a TBD. Over the next couple weeks, I'll commit to making the easy how-tos, make sure that the how-tos are followable and things like that. So we'll get there.
Sorry, you said commit.
The Git joke. Neri, you had a question? And I'll get to you, Ivan, real quick too.
Maybe you'll answer this in your easy how-tos. So once you create the GitHub vault, can you show again, like, how do I do that to go into my computer? Because I think I missed that step. So I was creating it and then I was like, oh, and now.
Fast. I did
Yeah,
it
but
super
maybe I can get that answer once you create the how-to. So maybe you don't need to go back over that because because we
let's
have
do it
limited
real
time
fast.
today.
I'll do
Okay.
it slow enough that maybe it won't be easy to follow when we do it, but somebody can pause the video and say, okay, what's he doing there? Ivan, you're muted.
Pete, thank you for this. I know you're giving us like 100. We're getting like a 20, right? Because it's development, but I already have in my here the Obsidian. I have my first GPT, and I will figure it out how to do the markdowns and everything. That's the way we do it. And yes, as he was telling before, a month and a half ago, I didn't know nothing about this. And now I'm building GPTs, and then I'm going a little bit ahead. You know, yesterday I was asking for things that are more complicated because we are using GPTs or AI and base our life or the way we live, right? I work by myself, and I don't have nobody to be. I don't have peers. I don't have a boss. I'm my boss. The one who has to invent. So that's what I'm doing, trying to not see the people that's running fast, not getting because you see it. Everybody have it, and oh no, they're making money. I don't care. I focus what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. I don't want to get crazy because everybody knows on me. Yes, we don't know. We are learning. It's a long process.
It's easy to get overwhelmed watching everybody running past.
Yes, and the videos and everything. Wow, when you see those, the pictures, everything. Yes.
But you're right. If you kind of just like narrow down, follow an easy how to, it's okay. Let's keep going on Git. And there's a magic thing that happens. You go, wow, that's so cool. I want to be able to do that. It's still not easy, but it's so cool that it's worth it. So let's get there. We're almost there. And then we'll come back also near to how to get started with a vault on GitHub. So this is the GitHub version of the vault. And I've got these two things. Let me delete this one.
You're not sharing anymore.
Oh, I can see it. Thanks, Vicky. Was that Vicky? Okay, so now you can see it, I hope. Right? Awesome. I'm going to delete 3, and we'll do this again, but we'll do it the Git way instead of the. This is actually a really good way to do things. If you want to keep track of a bunch of stuff, you throw a number after it. That works. Git is just better at it. So let's do the Git way. So I'm going to delete this. Thanks, Obsidian, for asking me if I want to make sure. And then it actually moved it to my system trash. So if I wanted to, I could go to the trash and find it. So where we were was I was typing source to get. Oh, this is the wrong one. My trick doesn't work because they renamed this a little bit. Let me type Git instead. Oh, I made a mistake, a newbie mistake. No offense. Everybody's a newbie, especially in AI. I think I didn't even install the plugin, did I? I got ahead of myself. So Obsidian has a really nice plugin system. There's a lot of like core plugins that are mostly enabled nowadays. They used to not be so much. But then there's a thing called community plugins. These are things that are written by open source people and contributed to the community, and everybody can use them. So there's a safety thing, make sure you want to turn on community plugins. You have to be a little bit thoughtful because if you're using, it's possible that an open source person, a nasty person pretending to be a nice open source person could upload a plugin, that's something like make $1 million with ChatGPT, And if you don't make sure that other people are using it, you download it and it turns out that it's mining crypto on your computer or something like that. So that's why that whole be a little bit careful thing is. So I'm going to search community plugins for Obsidian+Git. Just like GPTs, by the way, these are download counts. And somebody yesterday on Anne's GPT call was saying, you know, if there's a plugin with like five downloads, I'm probably not going to try it. But if it's got, you know, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of downloads, other people have tried it. It's still in the kind of the equivalent of the App Store here. This is probably okay to go with, especially if somebody like Pete says it's okay, you know. So I will install this and then I will enable it. And yeah, I think that's okay. I got a weird pop-up here, but it's because I started with an empty vault. I think that's okay. So now I can do the trick I was trying to do and do source. And what I was looking for was Obsidian+Git open source control view. And again, this is because I started with an empty vault. This is the way the messages pop up and they go away. And we saw a little bit of the sharp edge of Git poking through there. Obsidian+Git, the plugin, doesn't have a lot of understanding of all the messages that Git can provide, and so it's providing kind of a obscure error message. And Obsidian+Git is like going, well, okay, here's an error message. I know that I can ignore that. I would, in my easy instructions, I would make sure that most people wouldn't even hit that. So it's because I started with an empty vault. So, and it's going to keep happening. Let's kind of follow Neri's thing, and I will go to GitHub, delete this vault. I don't have anything new here because I just copied it over from my other one. And we'll start over and go a tiny bit slower, and we'll get a non-broken vault to start with.
Can you have a second?
Yeah.
I just put my first GPT, and I tried to start editing, but how can I go to the edit mode?
Click the configure tab. Oh, the edit.
First GPT.
Yeah, and then you go to my GPTs. And
no, in the Obsidian.
Oh, in Obsidian.
I already
What
have
are you
my
trying to do?
GPT. Edit. I
edit?
copy and paste everything, and now I'm gonna put the markdowns to keep the same structure that is in the GPT, like private.
This is like a notepad thing here in the middle. You just edit here.
Was trying, but it doesn't go. It doesn't give me when I try to put those tags here.
You might need to, if you see it here like this, you might need to click this. There's an edit in a view mode here.
Okay.
We're gonna keep going. Maybe we can come back a little bit later.
Okay.
So I'm deleting the other GPT, or sorry, the other vault here. Hang on just a sec. While GitHub checks to make sure that. While I'm doing this, you know, one of the good and bad things of this AI, all this AI stuff, is it's a little bit new, and to do the coolest stuff, you end up doing stuff that software developers do. So, you know, for better or for worse, kind of. So I'm really proud of all the people I see in AI Salon doing stuff, which is like, Corey blew me away yesterday. She's got a bunch of GPTs, and she's a potter by trade. but she's doing fancy revision control, stuff that software developers do. She's doing it in Google Sheets, which I think makes it harder for her. She didn't have to learn anything. She could just start doing it, which is the right thing to do. Just start doing it with your tools. But I think like learning Obsidian, and then learning Obsidian is like one step and it's pretty easy. Learning Obsidian and Git is like another step or two, and it's still pretty easy and super rewarding. Okay, so kind of back to Neri's question, how do I get the cloud version onto my computer? I'm going to do a weird thing and start with I'm going to start with something called the Massive Wiki Publishing Kit, which I don't think is really necessary for this. It's super helpful if you're doing Massive Wiki. One of the things you can do with GitHub is find stuff to get you started with something. And so this is a helper vault, essentially. They're called repos in Git lingo, Git language, Git speak. Repos and vaults are basically the same thing. It's just different names for the same thing. I know this is a safe basic vault to start with, and it comes preloaded with the ability for one button publishing to the web, make it into a website. And that's why you start with this. You start with this if you want one button publishing to the web. You don't need to start with this if you want an easy place to start. So I'll make another one of those, commit to make another one of those next couple of weeks. But anyway, I can say use this template and create a new repository. So I'm going to use the same name. 224. Second. Publishing, and then starter. This description is to help me keep track of it, and also if it's public, to help other people know what it's about. It ends up right here, what I just typed. And then these are the pages or the code or the files or whatever that starts this. So previously I created a repo. It's very similar to the way I just created a repo. The next step was a wizard that said, if you've done this before, or if you want to import code or things like that. It had a couple different alternatives, and that would have been an okay thing to do. I could have got that wizard to help me create a non-empty repo. This is easier for me when I'm doing a demo and not having to think about it. And it's maybe useful if you ever want massive wiki stuff. Anyway, whatever repo you go to on GitHub, if you have access to it, if you can see the files in it, there's a green button like this that says code. And you go to this, and there's a couple different control things here. We'll talk about someday we'll talk about HTTPS versus SSH and GitHub desktop. You can actually download a zip also of the whole thing and save it someplace as a backup, which is another cool thing. There's a little bit more instructions we need, or you'll need to know what to do here, and we're not going to get to it today, I'm sorry. But anyway, you go to that button, and you may need one or the other of these depending on how your authentication is set up. So what I did is I just copied this to my clipboard. And
I have a question.
Yes.
If I need to ask in this GitHub, I need to get a plugin or something. Can I look for it, or only people to publish some stuff? What happens if I want getting information about yours? Put in there. Where can I put a find or look for it? Because I already got this, and I was previously trying to find out.
On GitHub, or?
Oh. I was trying to find out about plugins.
Obsidian plugins?
Yeah.
Just search for Obsidian plugins. Sometimes you'll end up on the community.
Or GPT plugins also. Or um,
So I'm going to keep going. So what I did is I went to the code button, the clone place. I picked SSH. Most people I think are going to pick HTTPS. I copied this. I went to my computer and I did a magic thing. I apologize. What I did is I typed git clone and then I did paste. This command line, I'm an advocate for using the command line also, even for newbies, but we didn't go into that, and it's not strictly necessary. There's other ways to do it. You know, now that I think about it, we've swung both ways. Using GitHub Desktop is actually a little bit, it's clicking buttons instead of typing things, but it turns out that typing things it's a better thing to learn, and it's not that hard. Anyway, so we're not covering exactly how you do this unless you kind of know what's going on already. So, so now I'm going to do another kind of magic trick. It's actually pretty easy to use Finder and your command line together. So you can see that, wow, this is the old one. I know that I'm deleting that one. I named it a little bit different. So this is the thing that I just cloned, it's called, from GitHub. And now I can open that in Obsidian. There's a place here where I can remove the old one and then open folder as vault, click that. There's a trick here, don't click inside here. Make sure that you just select it, but don't double click it. And then open it. So poof, we're back. And now I don't have a empty vault. We'll do the appearance thing I like real quick. Oops. And then we'll do community plugins, turn on community plugins, browse, git, install, enable. And now we didn't get the crazy error messages over here, which is great. And I'm going to do Command P, source control here. Okay, so this is the way the Obsidian Git plugin is supposed to look. You'll see a couple buttons up here. This icon that looks like Git. It means that there's, well, it looks like Git. There's a couple other native Obsidian things. These aren't plugins. These are part of Obsidian. There's an outline view, a tab view, and incoming links and outgoing links. So that's why these other things are here. We didn't cover them, but if you start using Obsidian, they're kind of useful. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click on one of these files and say reveal in Finder, and click this and say reveal in Finder. And I want to copy this. This time, instead of drag and drop with the option key or whatever, I'm going to do Command C like copy and Command V like paste. And now I've got those files in my new vault. Another lesson, by the way, in all this tech stuff, sometimes you do it over and over and over a few times. It's just the way it works and the way software is and the way computers are. It's something that would be a lot harder with a car engine, but with software, a lot of times you just restart. Okay, so I was promising an amazing thing here, and we're finally going to get to it. Say I didn't want to do this three-way, but I wanted to make a new version of this. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Let me back up a sec. If you think about it, I had these files let me go back to the Finder. And I'll close this other one, which is now confusing. This file came in from the repo. It's actually a junky thing we should delete. This netlify toml thing is a settings file that's useful later. Ignore it for now. And then if you think about it, this is a new file to this vault. I drag this in from a new place. And Obsidian.Git is already tracking that. It says, hey, there's a new file that is created. There was a previous version in the cloud that doesn't have this. There's a new version here that has it. And then it also tracks that. So U is for update, D is for deleted. This file got deleted, so it's tracking that too. If I wanted to undo that, I can already undo that change using the magic of Git, and it's back. So once you've got Git installed on a vault, it's keeping you safe. It's installed and set up. It's keeping you safe, and you can make changes and know that you can go to Obsidian.Git and change it. Sometimes it takes a second or two for Obsidian.Git to notice things, but here's that deleted file. So the easy README in a couple weeks will have a picture, but I'm going to do it with my finger or something. Every time you make a set of changes, you want to save it. You want to make a bookmark. This is a new place. I want to start making changes from here. So keep all of that stuff together as one set of changes. So even now, because I've copied a file in and deleted a file that was there, I've got these changes, and I can make a snapshot right here of my progress. And I'm going to do that. This is a note to myself, and it's set up with a pre-thing here that's just kind of a generic note, but I want to make a better note. I'm going to say added a GPT file from elsewhere, deleted extraneous file. So this is kind of a summary of the changes I just made. And almost always there's a little rhythm that you can do with some of these buttons to do the finer grained steps, but almost always you can just click this backup button and it says committed, and then we have to wait for another thing pushed. So as soon as it says pushed files to remote, that means that it's synced everything, all the changes to GitHub. And now, even if I screw something up on my computer, like I deleted everything, or I went to another computer or something, I know I can get back to that snapshot. Let's look at that real quick on here. Usually this is a thing, this is something you don't do every time. But if you get in trouble, kind of like if you get into car trouble, you're pulled over on the side of the road and you need you need to fix something. I know that I can go to GitHub and click this right here, commits, it's called. So this was from the creation, but you see here, it's got that message that I just typed to myself, added a GPT file from elsewhere and deleted an extraneous file. If I click that, it's got all the changes. An added file and a deleted file. And with a little bit of help from a Git person, I could actually, even without that, if it's just something I know, I can copy and paste from this change log here. I can copy and paste it. You can actually recreate this with a little bit of help. Okay, so now we're going to do the fun thing. Finally. So the idea was that I could take this, imagine a scene 2, make a change in the middle someplace, and maybe I'm just going to delete this. Well, maybe I'm going to delete this. So this is the part where we're telling Midjourney, a lot of different ways. Oh, actually, sorry, this is GPT instructions on making a good Midjourney. So I'm going to, and this is where ChatGPT is supposed to make up some emotional conceptual tone. I'm going to say always make it a happy scene for whatever reason. So now, in the olden days, the way I would have done that is I would have said, well, I want to make a change to this. Let me duplicate the file, make the change, and then I'll have two versions. I have Git in the background, making sure that it keeps track of what's going on. And so over here, it's tracking the fact that in this file, I've modified it. And if I click on this file name, it'll show me the changes like that. So red is for deleted, green is for added. I deleted these things and added these things. And even without the cloud, I can go say something like, oh my gosh, that was a big mistake. I didn't want to say that. So I can do the same thing. I can click undo and it's back the way it was. I can't immediately click redo, but I could have done that if I did another step. Always really happy picture is what I really wanted to say. Okay, so you see it's not updated yet. If I need to make sure it updates, it's got that change. And let's double check the change. So now I can keep going and I keep making changes, or I might copy this over to my GPT, test it, and then maybe I want to make another change. So if I'm about to do something with this, instead of just editing, probably this is another time to take a snapshot. Snapshots with Git are super easy and super fast. So I'll make a little note to myself. You can I could just say changes, or I could leave that default message with vault backup. But I'll leave a little bit of a note to change emotional tone. I'll leave a little bit of a note. And then it's the same thing. Click this button here, committed, pushed. And again, normally I just make changes, snapshot, make changes, snapshot, make changes, snapshot. So I don't go over to GitHub. But if I needed to, I could go over to GitHub, find on the homepage of that, and now there's 3 commits snapshots. And there's that message I said, change emotional tone, and here's the deleted and added. So we just got a tiny bit of the next step. Imagine that I had 4 or 5 files and I had a bunch of changes. I could be making snapshots a lot. I don't junk up my files with a bunch of different imagine a scene 2, imagine a scene 3, 4, 5, 6, 18, 16, whatever. It's just the same file name. And normally I don't need to go back to the history, but I can always go back to the history. And I don't use the Obsidian+Git plugin for that. It's for doing the day-to-day snapshot stuff. I use GitHub to go back to the snapshots. And there you go. That's kind of the deal. And most people survived. Thank you. I know Brandon had to leave early and maybe some other folks. Obsidian+Git took up the whole thing. I didn't really intend for that to happen, but we'll make it a little shorter. We'll keep making this a little shorter and a little easier and a little bit more foolproof. And in a couple of weeks, we'll have something that sings. And if you want to start experimenting ahead, you can, of course. Ask questions in the AI 101 space on AI Salon.
I have a question about the last thing you showed, please.
Yeah.
I understand you make changes and you can go back to the older version. So in theory, you have access to both files. So maybe you want one version with the happy, what you added, and the other one, you can use both?
That's a great question. and for the folks, don't feel you have to stay. For the folks who can stay, let's do that one real quick. And then let's do another thing. I want to show you another AI use for Obsidian and Git, mostly Obsidian actually. That's really cool. So Katerine, is that a good pronunciation of your name?
Yeah, Kate is fine.
Kate. Thanks, Kate. Great question. The way I would do that, it's funny, it's easily, let me think about it a sec.
Don't worry. I was just thinking, I was just asking if that's if that happens automatically, but if it's something you have to engineer, don't worry about it. It's not there.
It's not one of the top four things I would do with Git. It's one of the top 10 things I would do with Git, and I would need a little bit of help from Stack Overflow or something like that. It's easy to follow. What I would do, well, let me show you a cheap and dirty way to do it, which is, I'll rename this one to be just happy. And then I'll make another one. Maybe I should have duplicated this one. You can always duplicate a file, make a copy. So I'll change this one back to the original file name. And maybe I'll, just to do the bookkeeping here, I'll change the header of this one. That's kind of optional, but super useful. Okay, so now we have two files, but these are the same. And this one has that new version. Kind of a cheap and dirty way to do it is to go over here to the other versions. And actually, let's do it a different way. If you think about it, this is where we made that change. Normally this list is like dozens long, right? So you kind of scroll, you can look at the dates, you can look at different stuff. And anyway, I know this is where that existing file was. Actually, let me back up. Let's try it a slightly different way. I'm confusing myself a little bit. Here in the file navigator is that file. And here is the history of that file. So this is the first time it got added. This is the time when I changed it to be all happy. I think if I click here, I kind of get to the same place. I feel like there's a way to get just this whole file as a file instead of the file. There you go. So now this is at that version. This is a version number here, as it turns out. And if I type code, I'll get to the, yeah, here you go. I'm stumbling through this, I apologize, but you could, I could have at any point, I could have just found that number 3 and copied and pasted it. I was trying to get a little bit fancier and get the actual file, and it took me a little stumbling around, but I did it. So now I have it in my download folder. I'll go here. I'm going to actually delete this one because I didn't need to make a copy. I thought I would make a copy and edit it, but I found the whole file. So I'm going to do it that way instead. And then I can just, I think I can drag and drop it onto that folder. Yep. So there you go. This is the 2. Oops. Wasn't successful. And offhand, I'm not sure why. Let me try that again.
No, in Obsidian, you're looking at the just happy. Go back to Obsidian.
Oh,
you're not looking at the.
You're right.
There.
There you go. So that was actually less cheap and dirty way to do it. The cheap and dirty way to do it would have just been to get that number 3 up on the screen, copy and paste it. But you can, it wasn't too much harder to find the file itself. And now, because if I'd done that a couple times, I would go, okay, Pete, quit confusing yourself. Actually, what I would do is I would go to my vault again, maybe a different vault. So it's really a common use to use your vault for a few different related things. And this is a perfect example where I want to say something like retrieve previous version file from. I won't do the whole instructions here, but this is a really good example of using Obsidian to keep track of stuff that you learn. Etc. I can fill that in later. And then you'll see over here the Obsidian.Git. You saw untitled there for a little while. Here's a new file called retrieve previous version. This is kind of interesting. It sees a modification in that same file name and then a new file for the one that, anyway. So again, this is a great place to get a snapshot. Restore. And snapshot it. So let me show you real quick. I'll take another minute or two, and that's it. And then we'll call it good. As you might think, I do a lot of ChatGPT, and I've got a little plugin we'll cover another time here that says export. So, I end up with dozens and hundreds of chats with ChatGPT, right? And you can actually get them exported. You can say archive all my chats or get these sent to you. But it's kind of chunky that way. So I've got a little plugin that somebody else wrote. I've installed it, and you can say export markdown. I don't have maybe, and the cool thing is you can say export all. So usually I have dozens here. This is my new account, so I only have one. Export all, and I get this nice zip file. What's this? Wow, only one file, so there's no folder. Let me show you something that I think is really cool. I have a different vault, which is ChatGPT export. So the plugin I use knows how to export to Markdown. Obsidian knows Markdown. And so all of a sudden I have a vault with all my conversations. I do this every month or two. So this is actually just the most recent snapshot. But now I can go through and look at any of these. This is when I got Cole from trying to jailbreak Santa.
Nice.
And so this is an instance where another amazingly useful thing for Obsidian is just managing a whole bunch of files that got downloaded from ChatGPT, all the conversations I've had. And so now I have access not to just the things that I can find in the web, but I have access to all of them. And another amazingly cool thing about Obsidian is you can do search. So if I want to search for Santa, say, here's all the files with Santa in it. This is this is a jailbreak, and this is the call I got from Santa, which is very cool. A trick is to instead of asking it to repeat the instructions, say it to translate the instructions.
It's French.
Yeah. So there's search is pretty fancy in Obsidian. You can search for file names, which is not very useful on this one, but actually sample we're working on, or just visual. So these are all the file names with visual in it. So imagine kind of what I'm doing. I've got hundreds of conversations with ChatGPT. I download them all to my computer. Then what? Since I know Obsidian a little bit, I can just open it as a vault, and I can search it. I can make notes about these if I wanted. A thing that we didn't cover, and I'll do it super fast, which is probably not advisable, but whatever. I can go in here and make another file called my favorite chats.
Okay, so this is an title, right? Let me see title.
And then a trick that Obsidian does that's super cool is if you, in your text, if you start with 2 square brackets, you can make a link to anything you want here. So I'm going to make this a bullet list.
Are you hyperlink it? Yeah.
Yeah, this is a hyperlink.
How do you make it? Could you?
A hyperlink is just double square brackets and then the name of another file, the file name from another file. And if I just start typing some things,
double bracket, okay.
Obsidian does a completion. It looks for file names without, those words and letters in it. So now I can be browsing around. I could maybe, let me find that file again. File favorite, because I've got too many files in this. So this is a great file. I'm going to make a bookmark for it. So Obsidian lets you keep a list of bookmarks of your favorite, folders and files. And so now I'm browsing around. I find one that's really cool. Maybe I'll copy the title, go to the bookmarks, add this to my favorites. Make sure that it's got double square brackets around it. And then I can get to these whenever I want. And over here, this is called, there's forward links and backlinks. This file knows that it's linked from my favorite conversations. So I've got some simple navigation that I can get around my vault easier. So this is all kind of fancier Obsidian that you don't need to just manage, stuff, but super useful. Any wrap stuff?
Well, just so people can remember, maybe next time you can show the AI plugin too sometime.
The exporter for ChatGPT.
Yeah, so that Obsidian can use AI. Remember the plugin?
Right. Yes. Yeah. Thanks. I'm going to put that on the notes page. Plugin for ChatGPT exporter. Thanks for your attention and your patience with me being a geek going over stuff too fast. I appreciate it. I know it's hard, or confusing or weird, but kind of valuable.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Pete.
Yeah, you're welcome. Next session, maybe as much Obsidian, maybe not. Next session is Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, and then the one after that is, there's 2 on Friday in the morning and Friday in the afternoon.
What time Tuesday morning?
Tuesday morning is 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, and so that's 10 Central. The next ones will be an hour, and I probably won't let them run over. So cool. Thanks so much to be here on a Sunday. I appreciate it. See you on AI 101.
Thank you so much, Peter. This is really great. Appreciate
Good
it.
to see
Thank
you,
you.
Vicky.
You're welcome.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, all.
Take care. Thank you.